Who the hottest in they state? Come to Hustle Mania, find out what's going on. It's another episode of the Hustle Pod. The CB, Get Money or Get Away From Me. And I'm here with the legendary, the hard-working, most talented, meanings infinite, and mom.
Thank you for having me, brother. It's very good to be here. It's very good to see you again after it's been a minute since we've, been face to face. So I'm glad to come out here and just chop it up with you.
Nah, I appreciate it, man. I definitely wanted to have a sit down with you because I see you everywhere. Yeah, every time I'm on social media, you're hosting this. When it comes to work ethic, I always see you, putting in that work.
I'm trapping.
Yeah, you definitely trapping.
I can call you.
Yeah, you definitely trapping, man. So, how I want to start it off is, tell the viewers, because let's start off by, telling us when you started your spoken word journey. Like, what, do you have a year?
Yeah. So for me, I started, I want to say late 2018. That was when I really started. I'd been writing like before that, a couple years prior and stuff like that. Just general poetry, novel writing and stuff like that. But 2018 was the big like catalyst year. That in 2019, that was when I met my good buddy Eric Shandroff, Mr. E. He kind of opened my whole lens to that world of spoken word and taking what I had and putting it on a stage. And a stage isn't even something I was even thinking about at the time as a teenager. I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm like, I'm an antisocial guy. I want to go up on a stage with people and stuff like that, But then it just became this whole exciting thing for me because I'm like, oh man, I get this opportunity as this guy who maybe doesn't have that many friends or doesn't have that much going for him. I get to take something that I think I'm really good at that's awesome, and I get to chuck that at a crowd of people. So there's something really special about that. It's like this whole opportunity,
right.
Wherever people see so much fear when it comes to public speaking, I'm able to just see this huge opportunity to just not only grow as a person, but to just gain so much, like from the feeling perspective of it.
Mm.
So that was where my journey started, and it just kept going with me taking notes on every small detail from my mentors, from people like him, people like Joseph Ruben Foer, a.k.a. Hassan, who's a fantastic spoken word artist, or guys like, most recently my buddy Damian Rucci.
Okay.
He's the father of the New Jersey Poetry Renaissance. I also refer to him as the second coming of Jerry Springer.
What's his name again?
His name is Damian Rucci.
Shout out Damian Rucci, man.
Absolutely.
So, your name is Meanings Infinite, otherwise known as M.I.
Mm-hmm.
How did that name come about? Usually when artists, have their name, it usually come from either a freestyle or it's a name given to you by somebody else, or you come up with it. How did Meanings Infinite come about?
Well, it kind of went all over the place. That, and there's even some new things that are kind of being added to it as well. But how it first came about was I wanted to start with initials or something like that because I thought like, ooh, initials are cool, initials are mysterious and all that or whatever. So I didn't really think much of it then. And eventually, somehow I came upon MI, and I was big on like conscious hip hop at the time, so it became Mass Intelligence, MI, Mass Intelligence. But I'm just kind of like, that name doesn't really define me because it's like I'm a human being, and a human being has flaws, and a human being is imperfect, and all those things. So I just figured Mass Intelligence doesn't really fit for that, so that's why I switched it to Meanings Infinite, because, that's what you can attribute a human being to, the sum of an infinite number of experiences.
Right.
You can't just pin it down to one, so that's where that came from. And I was saying before, there's something I'm kind of adding to it because I'm doing a major rebranding right now. So if you notice my social media right now, everything is like dark and blank. Like I have I took all my posts down and like I took my profile. Like I'm switching some things up for March. There's gonna be a whole, I don't want to like hype myself up, and be like, there's a storm coming. When this is really just me trying something new, but the handle is going to change. It's not going to be Meanings Infinite. MI is still going to stand for Meanings Infinite. Yeah. But my handle it's going to be MI, the Battle Poet. That's what my hand, because I feel I want to just properly explain myself as an artist. I want to explain to people, listen, I'm a bridge between something like battle rap and poetry. Yeah. Because that's what most people think of when they think of me and they see me perform. Like, oh man, this guy's like a battle, this guy's like Daylight or something like that. Yeah. So for me, it's trying to bridge those two things together.
Yeah, creating a new pocket, you could say. Well, I remember the first time I met you. I want to tell that story here on the Hustle Pod. I had a show, I think in the New Brunswick area. I don't think it was in Hillsborough.
Was it Above Art?
I don't remember the name of the show.
I'm trying to remember.
I'm trying to remember if it was outside or inside, I think I performed after you. No, I performed before you. So I was able to take in the performance. Usually as artists, we go to a show, you come to perform, your adrenaline is up to the point where when other people are performing before you,
you're not even thinking. Yeah,
right? You're not 100% there.
I know how I feel.
Exactly. And I had the opportunity to see you after I performed, so it was like I gave you my 100% undivided attention, bro. And I gotta tell you, from the outside looking in, you blew my mind in a way where I'm accustomed to battle rap. Growing up, I used to battle rap before I just became a musician. So that's my root. That's where I come from. So seeing another person, another guy, killing it on a spoken words tip and being engaging with the crowd, it just seemed like you was really tenured in what you was doing. I don't remember what year that was. You said you started in 2018.
It was probably my bet. It was probably a couple years ago, at least 2 or 3 years ago. I'm thinking, because I've known you for a couple of years now. Yeah. I'm trying to think of which one it might have been. If it was Brunswick, then it was either Above Art or Hub City or Co-op or something. Probably one of those. I don't know. It might have been Above Art.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, I'll spin my head in circles trying to figure out which one it is.
Exactly. It's too many to really,
Yeah.
But after seeing that set of yours, I just knew that I couldn't just walk away. I had to know you. I had to know about you. I had to see more of your work, and just really become one of your fans, bro. Just keeping it real. So, how did you get to that, I would say, level of tenureness, if that makes sense? Because you could, when somebody comes and perform, you could tell they're a beginner, they just started. It just seemed like, bro, you came to just show everybody this is how you hold a crowd. So how do you get to that vibration?
We're going back to some of what I was saying before. It's paying attention to all the small details. Doing your homework. You have to do your homework as a performer and as an artist in general. So it was just looking at all the greats, looking at all my teachers and mentors who taught me things. That was a big part of it. The technical aspects, but a part of me was also my drive.
Okay.
And I think the drive for me to do that was really important. And part of the drive that I have is, I have a very intense drive when it comes to this performance stuff, because I'm a guy who, before I even got into this, I really was when I start with that lyric, I can tell you what it's like to be a nobody. I really can tell you what it's like to be a nobody. That's who I was to myself, and I always considered myself small and all this. And the performance stuff, I just saw that as a big opportunity to escape that. It was this huge route of escapism. So it's not just something I'm doing for fun. It's not just something I'm doing, to make money. It's an escape for me, and that just made my drive to do it so much more intense. So combining that with learning all the technical aspects of everything, that's how I got it. Just from from learning from the best and from listening. That's one of the hardest things to do as an artist is take feedback and listen to people. Because like when I first started, I was going like really fast, like zigzag speed, and like it was hard to like hear all the things I was saying and all that. Then like my rhythm's like a little bit better. I'm not trying to go for like super consistent rhythm to the point where it would just be flat on rap. Right. But I like having tight, kind of like you see in battle rap almost, where it's tight pockets, of rap here and there, of rhythm here and there. So that was really where it was all about.
So like for artists, musicians, people who get on stage to show their talent, what is one or two sentences or words of advice you will give them in terms of how to engage with a crowd? Because everywhere you go is not the same crowd.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how do you do that?
I mean, I'll jump. Yeah, I'll jump right off of that, which is you got to understand what kind of crowd you're in front of, and you have to cater to that specific crowd if you really want to get the best out of that experience. That's the first thing I would say, because I've had events where like if I were to do the same stuff and maybe you saw when I first saw you at a different space, probably wouldn't go as well. I've had I can tell you a good story. So when this is another New Brunswick story. It's the only time in my career that I had ever been booed. Okay. Only time. One time. That's it. Yeah. So this was these two really dope organizers. These guys, J Demons Sword Bands.
Shout out J Demons and Sword Bands.
Yeah, great organizers. They throw lots of parties, and they were doing artist showcases at the time. And what I liked about theirs is they were doing showcases for artists that were like fairly cheap compared to what. Because usually when these showcases pop up, it's I don't need to be a jerk when I say this, but some of these showcases just tend to be a cash grab.
Oh yeah. Like, we can talk about that too.
We can go into that plenty. Yeah. But just to get back to the story, so they were throwing a showcase, and me as a poet, I like to go on spaces where poets aren't necessarily welcome, because I just like I like exposing people to it. I like exposing people to it, and I like shocking people. Right. People aren't expecting what I have. So I like to do that. So when I eventually got in there, this place, it's in a, classic typical New Brunswick basement, and it's like lots of young people there, probably some college students mixed in there, and it's packed out too. It's like at least like 40, 50 people, so packed out in this tiny little basement, and most of
those are the best environments.
Yeah, I love those environments. Yeah, and the artists, the lineup is mainly just like very like trap heavy rappers, not even like drill guys, not even Jersey Club guys, really just mainly like trap specific rappers, like heavy duty, like that kind of stuff, and like party rap, and like I have absolutely nothing against that.
It was just what was going on.
It was just what was going on at the time, yeah. So I jump in that mix, and the first poem I did fine. The first poem I was good because that was the whole
test the waters.
Well, I think what was the one I started with then? I'm pretty sure the one I started with was, the Christian Bale one and all that stuff. Okay. Where I'm saying all that. So, I think they were cool with the first one. But the second I started inching my foot into, conscious territory, and I started saying stuff about knowledge is power and all this, and school is important, then I lost them. And then they started walking out in droves. People started booing. Somebody's like, DJ, get this guy. And I'm just like, what's the DJ gonna do? I'm an acapella performer, you idiot. Exactly. But that was, that goes to what I'm saying is you have to know your crowd, because that crowd, that type of poem, I can't try with that crowd. Right. I have to be very specific in the approach I use with that type of crowd. So that's the first thing. The other thing I would tell you, as an artist, because I know one of the big parts of it is public speaking, is attack. Attack. What are you afraid? Attack.
Tell them what you mean by that. Tell them what you mean by attack.
So many people, and they're like, "Oh, I'm worried. What are they going to think? What are they?" No, attack the audience. You need to. People are always talking about manifesting, and I'm not a guy who says manifesting all that much, but you have, before you get into your space to perform, you have to say, you have to say to yourself, you have to convince yourself, I'm going to absolutely murder this.
Right.
I'm going to destroy this.
Right.
And if you don't have that mentality, then you might not have the confidence. You have to build yourself up to some degree. I don't know what it is you have to do that, but do that.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two key pieces of advice I would give you.
Yes, definitely the crowd and attack the audience. You know, usually when I come, I'm nervous, man. Before I perform, and I think that's a good thing too because you know I used to run track, and before every meet I'll be so nervous, and I'll tell myself I've done this so many times. Why am I still nervous? It's gonna be the same heat. I just gotta focus on my PR. Why am I nervous? But anytime that I wasn't nervous, I did well. So nervousness is actually a good thing, especially when you're about to perform any type of activity. So as an artist, you get on that stage, you get nervous, but you still have to have it in your mind. Because for me, I get nervous before the show, but as soon as they hand me that mic, it all
goes away because all the anticipation and all the like leading up to it, all that stuff, all that goes away. It's all that peace.
Exactly.
You know, so that's the worst part of it. That's the worst part of the whole experience is the waiting.
Yeah, definitely the waiting. I'll add to that piece of advice for a good performance. I'll be speaking as a musician, somebody who has I have hip hop songs and I have songs where it's more melodic or whatever. Definitely have a good catalog of music because every time you go to a venue, it's definitely going to be different crowds. So you want to have different, type of things in your arsenal to perform. When it's
absolutely,
time to perform.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I couldn't agree with that more. There's so much I could say about that, especially like in the field of poetry, because I feel like
it has to be different.
It has to be. I think versatility and just keeping yourself unique is so important because I see so many. I mean, I'll give like two examples of this. One that you can definitely get as someone who used to battle rap is. I see this in battle rap and I see it in slam poetry. Is that the biggest problem that both of those types of performers have is that I hear one or two of your battle raps or one or two of your slam poems, and then I've heard your entire catalog because every single thing sounds exactly the same.
Right.
So it's important to have a whole arsenal. You gotta have different weapons. You can't have the same weapon, for every occasion. It doesn't work like that. And it goes against you being yourself. If you have all of just one type of stuff. If you're just a one-trick pony, that goes against you being yourself. Because you being yourself would be a wide spectrum of stuff.
Exactly. That's great advice. I want to lean right into the battle rap. As I told you, I'm a huge battle rap fan. I started off battle rapping. I used to battle rap with kids in my school. I used to battle rap in the back of the bus. I could honestly say I never lost, bro.
Nice.
Not that I had like 100 battles, but every battle that I had, I feel like I won. And the people that was around, they made me feel like I won. So that's where I come from. And I'll tell you a couple of my favorite battle rappers. You have Sue Surf. You have Daylight. You have Chess. You have Arsenal. You have K-Shine. You have Tay-Rock. The Gun Bar King. Tay-Rock. You have New Jersey Twerk. You have Shotgun Suge. You have it's T-Top. It's so many.
There's so many.
Yeah. It's so many great battle rappers out there, and it's just not an easy job. It's not an easy thing because let me tell you the difference between one huge difference between a battle rapper or a spoken word artist and a musician who put music on wax. That musician can make a song, perform the same song 1,000,000 times in 1,000,000 different venues, and the crowd will feel the exact same way or even better every other time.
You can't do that on battle rap.
But you can't do that with battle rap. You write your 16 or 32, and it's for this day and this time for this person because it's customized.
Mm-hmm.
Like with spoken word and battle rap, everything is customized to the occasion or the opponent.
Yeah.
So you have to constantly sharpen your writing sword. You have to always write. So like, how do you manage that? Because just like you said, you got a lot of different things in your arsenal. So how do you keep from not just being like, oh, I have this, I'm good for 2-3 months, like.
Well, I mean, I try to write a lot, and I try to write a lot of stuff that I like to write in a wide. I don't want to say. I think the best way of putting it is I write in a wide spectrum. Like I have something like the stuff you've seen where I'm explosive and energetic. Now, several years later, and you haven't even seen my new stuff and all that. Like I've got stuff that doesn't even rhyme. That's like on a whole nother mood. I've got stuff that's comedic now.
Whoa.
Like I try to really customize. Going back to what we were saying about having that wide arsenal, and that's part of how I try to keep it so that even though I'm not customizing it to every single event, I'm still keeping it fresh and keeping it new by adding stuff that's so wildly different and shuffling that in and out for which place I have to go to. So that's really how I would do that.
Okay. So
although I will add this. Because Mr. Reed, my guy, he does it a lot. He does a whole lot of improv with his stuff to keep it fresh sometimes. And now
that's not easy.
That guy's my master and all that. And I call him the master for a reason because it's like he came to my show the last 2 times he came out to my show that I run in Hillsborough. He did not on beat, an acapella spoken word off the top of the dome freestyle with everybody's name in the room. It's like it's like doing that with a beat is one thing, but doing that without a beat is like a whole nother. Like you can't pause or anything or stretch your words. Like that's so insanely difficult. And he likes doing that to keep it fresh. He and the one he got that from was the number one slam poet in the world, the student Ed Mabry. Ed Mabry.
Shout out Ed Mabry, man, wherever you are.
He's considered like the slam poetry goat. This dude will I met him in Broadway once.
You met him?
Yeah, I met him in Broadway once, and this dude did he had a whole poem, and then towards the ending half of the poem, he just started going off the top of the head, talking about conversations we had 10 minutes ago, and I'm like, how in the hell did you wrap that in? That makes in so well. That's so difficult to do. Now, the most I'll ever do, those guys they're in a different plane. Different vibration. Me, the most I'll ever do is I'll do it with a tiny bit of improv, and I'll say, I might throw somebody's name in there. If I have that poem called Knowledge is Power, and if I see a kid there, I'll customize one of the lines to be like, I want this young man to do blah, 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 blah. I'll try to personalize it in that sort of way.
Present so everybody could get more engaged.
Yeah. But that's the farthest they'll ever go. Those guys what they do is special.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And, speaking on having so many, bars, and spoken words in your arsenal, how do you, memorize it all? Because that's not easy, bro.
Yeah, and again, that's another thing where not having a beat does kind of go against you, because a beat is almost like another way to remember it.
Exactly.
So it is definitely a difficult process for me. What's helped over the years, it's become an easier process over the years for me, believe it or not, because I've gotten so much into the process of editing all my stuff, because I've gotten into the point where okay, I'm a writer. And okay, the idea is part of the process, but to me, most of the process now is okay, I've got this piece of junk and I need to make it not a piece of junk. Oh, wow. I need to edit it. So I'm big on draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, draft 4.
Yeah. So by the time you at the final version, it's
I got it, because it's almost the best way to kind of connect it is if you were to go into a studio and record it, you gotta record that crap a million times.
Yeah.
and by the time you're done with that session, you're sick of that song, like, you
Exactly.
know. So it's kind of like that, you know.
Okay. So let's jump right back into battle rappers. Can you give them a few names, or just give me top 3, no order, of people you admire and are inspired by their work?
Battle rap specific or just in general?
In general.
In general, there's so many, so it's so hard to cut it down. But if I could say like the most
because you like their style, yeah.
I'm gonna say like the most influential, especially in the spoken word field. I have to say my guy Mystery. I have to say him. He's the default. I'll also say one of my favorites, one of the guys I consider to be one of the all-time greats when it comes to spoken word, Taylor Molly.
What's his name?
Taylor Molly.
Taylor Molly.
Yeah, Molly.
Shout out Taylor Molly.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He most well known for a poem called "What Teachers Make," which is pretty popular. But he was a guy who could do an explosive poem like that, but at the same time, he had this other poem called "Depression is a Different Type of Fire," where he was talking about his experience we had. I think it was about a former lover who was suicidal, and he managed to connect that concept with the concept of during 9/11, how there were the jumpers on 9/11.
Yeah.
And, I think he had some line there that was like, I thought fire was the only thing that makes him jump from the building. Like, he had these just bone-crushing lines that I loved. But him, Mr. Reed, Taylor Molly, and then the third, I would probably have to go with tough, but I'm going to say Mikumari Kai, which that's a wild name.
What's his name? Mikumari Kai?
Mikumari Kai. A fantastic artist, really dope dude. I met him. I was trying out for the North Youth Slam team years ago, right before COVID. That's when I met him, and it kind of is in my space a little bit as far as like how he goes about things. I want to say, he has a bit of that like MC nature to himself when it comes to poetry. He has a piece called MC where he'll get 2 volunteers to stand beside him. He's like, all right, when I point at you, you say M. When I point at you, you say C. So he was like, oh, I had to go to the hospital for an M, urgent C. And it's like, woo! And I'm like mind blown, and he was fantastic. So those 3 guys, biggest like spoken word inspirations, because they just, I think it's the through line of all of them is they make it exciting for me.
Right.
They make poetry exciting to me.
Right. So before a performance, usually people have some sort of ritual. Some people pray, some people drink and smoke, some people have their own rituals. What is your ritual before a set?
Well, everybody's got their ritual. For me, I don't even know if it's necessarily rituals. I think there's small things I do. Like say if it's a big performance, just to get myself in the mood, I'll tighten up my fists real tight. I'll start kind of conjuring up some images in my head, just some because my performances, they tend to be very aggressive in their nature, so I start thinking of aggressive images. I think of things like Michael Jordan going for a dunk. I think of, a great white shark jumping out of the water. Kind of like, it probably sounds weird, but it's like, I'm thinking I'm trying to get myself intense. So I'm squeezing the fist, I'm doing that, I'm giving myself a stank face. I'm doing all sorts of small things like that just to get myself in the mood and get myself in the zone. So that for me, those are if anything, that's my ritual.
Can you tell them one of your best performance experiences?
There's a lot. There's so many, and it's hard to pick from.
What's the one that stick out to you because when you woke up that day knowing you was going to go to that place to do that set, by the end of the night you didn't know it, all of that shit was going to happen? Give me one of those.
That's wild. So, I think if there's anyone in particular that points out particularly well, one of them I'll say that definitely I liked it a lot, and it's one that stays in my memory a lot, and even one that I write about from time to time, is my first time doing this show called Microphone Mayhem, which it happens in Elizabeth. I don't know when they're going to come back with it, but they were doing it a lot last year. It was this big competition. Not any specific artists. It was mainly rappers in the competition, but there were like a couple singers, and I was the only poet in that competition. Only poet, like knee deep in Elizabeth. It was I want to say knee deep in Elizabeth. It was like right by the airport and right by the water, so it was a weird spot. Like I'd never been to that side of Elizabeth before, which was interesting.
The venue was different.
The venue was different, and it was like smoked out beyond belief too. So like I was like immediate contact high, right. Which I generally don't like having that before I'm about to like go perform. Sometimes it messes with what you say. I was just bumping into things. That's all it really was. But I ended up being okay. But no, I go in there and the waiting was killer because it was like how many people was it? It was very long sets, and it was probably like 20-ish people on that list for the competition. Wow. And like I didn't go until kind of later, and I didn't get home until like 2 a.m. or something crazy like that. It went on forever. Oh my goodness. But that crowd, it was very much almost matches what I was saying with that one New Brunswick show. Where it was like heavy duty trap rap. Although this one there was definitely more of a mixture of like drill was in there, and you had also it was more diverse. Drill was in there, and Jersey Club was in there, and there was even some like old school boom bap guys mixed in there. So it was widely diverse, but it was mainly hip hop, and it was a place it's the last place you'd expect a poet. Okay. So there was just such a build up for me to get there, and when I finally went, it was just like kaboom! Like I dropped a bomb. Like and the best part is when you're a performer and like they're going crazy over like the first couple lines, which aren't even the crazy lines. You go, oh boy, oh, I gotta step on the gas. Because this is like, because if they're going crazy, they're not even ready for the stuff I got at the end. They're gonna go crazy. They're gonna start a riot for me later. Yeah, and that's basically what happened. They were going crazy. I was very close to winning that. I was very close to winning that. I think the reason I didn't was because the second round, I was cutting 2 rounds. In the second round, I went on at like close to midnight, and I was wiped out and smoked out, and not to mention the poem I had like at the very end, like it was good, but it wasn't like I did probably my best one first. And that was probably the reason I didn't win. Had I switched that out, there was a good chance I could have won.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
But I didn't even care, honestly, because it's like the footage I got from that was fantastic. Yeah. And the reactions were fantastic. Like it was just such a fun and exhilarating experience. Like it's just the best feeling in the world when you've got the crowd in the palm of your hand. You can do whatever.
Exactly. That's great. That's a great experience. Usually I will always tell artists that you have to definitely pinpoint your goal every time you go to perform. Your goal, whether it be to get a list of 10 people that like your set so you could, continue giving them your music so they can follow you, whether it's the content that you're going to get from the show. Definitely highlight what your goal is when you're going to perform, because you don't just want to go there on la time and finish the night and you leave and it's like you don't feel accomplished in a way. So definitely have a goal and make sure you do that.
That's great advice. Because as I grow older, I get like more selective with what stuff I go to. Partially, part of it is just growing older and not like you're wrapping stuff into your schedule and trying to be careful and all that because of work and like there's all these other factors. But like part of it is also, okay, what am I really going to gain from this one? Yeah. What am I going to gain from this one? What do I have anything to gain from going to some random open mic 2 hours away that might have like 15 people there? Right. I'm not talking trash on anybody. I mean, that's not. Don't be mistaken. I wouldn't do that.
I'm talking about the benefits of choosing what sets to go and what sets to do.
Like for example, one to me that I consider to be very high value to myself, and one not just because I enjoy it, but one that I consider to be high value is every Wednesday Rutgers they do Verbal Mayhem. I don't know if you ever heard of Verbal Mayhem, but they're the poetry club at Rutgers. They've been going on since for at least 20 years. So they've been running, I think, for 20 years. I think my buddy Joseph Rubin Fuller, he was one of the big names that helped get all that into motion. Okay. And their shows, it's all college kids, and college kids can be so electric, like when they're really into it. Mm-hmm. And it's a decent crowd, like 30, like up to, I've seen it as much as like 50, 60. They've broken fire codes at times, like, you know, well, maybe I don't want to say that out loud. They haven't broken fire codes that I know of. When I was present, I never saw nothing. Pretend I didn't say that. Yeah. Strike it from the record.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
But their events get packed. Their events get packed, and they live stream all their events and stuff like that. So I can just pull whatever footage I need from their live stream. Oh, you know, so I get not only nice free footage, but really high quality footage, because I'm getting footage of people going ham for my stuff. Right. Not just a regular kind of event. People just going crazy, getting electric for my stuff. Mm. And that's why that's high value. That's high value. I can really get something out of it. That, and it's always good. I mean, I like doing this in any shows, but any shows that are very high reaction, it's good. It's good to test the waters with new stuff there. Because if I have something new there, and I try it out there, I'm really gonna know what the value of that piece is, of that new art is. I'm gonna get to know, okay, people like this, a lot of people like that. You know, I'm gonna find out real quick what people like, and they're a crowd that kind of goes both ways. They're the kind of crowd that, yeah, sure, they'll do the poetry snaps if they think something's deep, right? But they'll also go, oh my God! Like, they'll do both. Yeah. So that's why that crowd is so special to me, and why, you know, I'm so glad that after all the turmoil they had in COVID, that they're back in action. You should, like, if you have not experienced Rutgers Verbal Mayhem yet, it is open to the public. Try that out. They do it every Wednesday at 9 o'clock. You gotta check Verbal Mayhem out. They got an Instagram. I believe it is Verbal Mayhem. So definitely check them out. Their events are fantastic.
Definitely. Shout out Verbal Mayhem every Wednesday in Rutgers, New Brunswick, or
Rutgers, New Brunswick. Rutgers, New Brunswick.
Perfect. Okay. I like that.
Me as a poet, I got to perform at a strip club. Or at least
that's the venue they chose?
I don't think it was a in business strip club. But it was definitely at one point a strip club.
The venue itself.
Yeah, cause there were poles there. They had them squeaky lights. Yeah. They had those little tables, and I'm like, those aren't footrests. Those are for something else. You know what I'm saying? You know. So I'm like, yeah, I think this is a strip, and that made me really happy because I like that. Tough. I like that.
That's tough.
Yeah.
So give them a shout out again.
Yeah. We were just talking off camera about an awesome series of open mics that happens here in Newark called Therapy Sessions. It's run by a lovely lady named Jay Blue. She's been running that for a couple of years now. Now they're a part of the Cry Out Cave, which is, I think that's at the Kruger Mansion, and they're still doing events there. Therapy Sessions, but it's under the Cry Out Cave there. Check out the Cry Out Cave, check out Therapy Sessions. Both of them are awesome. I love all the things they do, so yeah.
Definitely. Shout out to them. Yeah. So I want to lead into business. In our line or industry, obviously musicians, it's masters, publishing, and shows. Mm-hmm. That's where you're making money, and then you go to merch and all the other avenues you can do to, make your money. Spoken words, I'm from the outside looking in, so I'm guessing shows and merch and external things you could use to sell from your brand that you make. So can you give the people an idea of the business side of what you do?
Yeah. I mean, part of the business side is whether you like it or not, as a poet, you're going to have to trailblaze. Because hip hop is established in the mainstream. That is a fact. You know, even being 50 years old, hip hop is still in the mainstream. If Drake drops a record, it's going to be like a #1 single.
Right.
You know, if the top poet in the country, if they drops a new poem, you know, some people are going to hear about it.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't
right
have to
now,
reach.
so right now the business of it as poets is trying to get us into that mainstream and push us back into that light. I mean, right now, the most of us, like, the only business that we've been doing has been from selling books or from, you know, like you were saying, just general merchandise.
Yeah.
But so much of it is trailblazing, and we're all doing that. My buddy Damien, which I was telling you about before, he's the one he's made some really great strides in the past couple of years. You know, I said he was the father of the New Jersey poetry renaissance.
Yeah.
So what happened was, he was running shows just like I was, all these poetry shows down the shore, and he started doing more of them and more of them, more frequently. And they started getting big and bigger and bigger and bigger until down the shore, the Jersey Shore, and mainly Monmouth County. So it was like Red Bank and Mattawan and Long Branch, and it was all these like dive bars and all these like smoke shops and stuff he was doing the events at. And he was doing like several shows a week, running several of these things a week, and they were getting big enough to the point where it was like, oh man, we're getting like 30 people like at every show, like every you know week we're getting crazy numbers of people, and it got to the point where like one of the ladies that he knew, I think she must have worked for PBS, and she got hold of it, and she's like, oh, we should do a little like spotlight on this. So PBS did a whole mini documentary on what happened then.
Wow.
It was it was called What's the Story? Voices in the Garden. That's what it was called, and it was taking all the people from that whole group and giving them a nice little spotlight, which was great. So TV is one of the things maybe what we're trying to get back into, and specials. The idea that me and him had was that, you know, we've always been modeling ourselves off of music. What if we modeled ourselves differently, maybe off of comedy? Because comedy is also technically an acapella act.
It is.
You know, and the way comics, you know, they get their ends meet is they get it with these specials, you know, they're not insane long. They're not like 2-hour concerts. They're about like 45 to an hour, you know, as far as length goes, you know, and they're able to get that to some sort of publisher, you know, on a network or a streaming service or whatever. And that's, you know, a way of them making money. Maybe we can go the same route.
Right.
But, you know, unfortunately, just right now, like, poetry is just so much of it is trailblazing. Although, I think, like, we're getting little glimmers of hope. Because, you know, just recently last year, we had our first Grammy Award winner poet, Jay Ivey. You know, we had him. If you might be familiar with the name, he was on, I think, Kanye's first album. He was on Kanye's first album.
What was his first album? Was it
Graduation? I think it was College Dropout. I believe he was on College Dropout. And then, you know, obviously had a couple years ago that Amanda Gorman lady, she was in the Super Bowl and all that. So there's little glimmers of hope getting us into the mainstream. But we don't have a household name yet. We got to get ourselves a household name that everybody knows. And once that happens, I think the rest of the dominoes can fall into place and the business will be much, much easier. I think it will still be challenging as any art is. Because even as a rapper with, you know, I'm making this, I think some of the language I said might make it sound like rap is, you know, it's just easy to, you know, get business going well in rap. It's not. It's art. And getting business to work there is so, like, difficult. It's so ridiculously hard. You know, the percentages of success are so low. But, you know, there needs to at least be some percentage, like, of a chance for us. Like, we need to create that chance for ourselves.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. What I could add to that is, when we bring up these battle rappers, the Daylights, the Tay Rocks, you know, Smack, who owns the whole battle, you know, URL, I think he's one of the pioneers of, you know, trying to bring these battle rappers or spoken word artists to mainstream. He's trying to build that gap, and I think the way he's doing it is a great way because he understands that it's a niche. Like, people are gonna play Drake's music on the radio. They're not playing a battle. But recently they played a battle rap on radio. It was wild, bro. I don't know if you know D.T. Gotti. He's a battle rapper from L.A. He battled this Philly battle rapper named Easy the Block Captain, and it was on Remy Ma's battle rap league. Okay. Yeah, they did it. I guess because it was some politics in the battle. I guess that's what made it do so well to the point where Funk Flex played it on Hot 97.
And if Funk Flex is playing it, then everybody's gonna hear it.
Exactly. So I definitely feel like there are people that's trying to build that bridge between the underground and mainstream, and trying to basically make sure that there are more successful, battle rappers and spoken word artists.
And to kind of segue off of that, like, with poetry, there's so many different, kind of niches, like you were just saying there. It's like battle rap is a niche of hip-hop. Whereas poetry, we have our own little niches. Like, one of the big ones was slam poetry. Yeah. Slam poetry got big enough to the point where people think that, if someone's a spoken word poet, they must be a slam poet. Because that's how big slam poetry got. I mean, I think slam poetry now is on the decline. I think the numbers are going down for that. I don't think spoken word is in decline, but I do think slam poetry is in decline.
Tell them the difference.
So the difference, or better, the definition of slam poetry. Slam poetry is really just when you do spoken word poetry for competition, for money. So, if you get a bunch of poets together and you say, okay, we're going to score all your poems, and whoever's got the best score, you win, $100, $200, whatever the case is. Yeah. That's slam poetry. That's really all it is in a nutshell. Okay. It's not much. It doesn't really get much more complicated than that. But stylistically, it does kind of tend to have its own sound, and this is kind of where I get into my critical lens about it. And I kind of started to sound like a jerk a little bit about it. But what happened with it, I think, and what I know plenty of other poets kind of feel the same way, is when they got the money involved in it, a lot of people stopped saying, let me write a poem because I want to write a poem. And they started saying, let me write this because it's going to get me higher scores. And they stopped being themselves, and they stopped being authentic. Yeah. And as a result, one of the biggest criticisms that people from the outside give slam poetry is that it all sounds the same. And
there's no more individuality.
Yeah, because everyone's just trying to go for the gold. And that's not to say that there aren't fantastic slam poets. I know so many slam poets that are absolutely phenomenal. And they're able to do it in a way that it is authentic to themselves, because that specific format, maybe for them, that's what works. But for there's so many people who it's just clearly conformity to me. And it's rules and regulations and stuff. So it tends to sound all a certain way. That's why, some people kind of confuse it. But slam poetry is really just, it's just the competitive side of things.
Yeah, it's more targeted towards the competition and the reward. Yeah. So now, contrast that to spoken word. Give them a definition or description of what spoken word is.
Spoken word is just when you take poetry and put it on a stage. That's basically all spoken word is. You're taking poetry and you put it on a stage. Maybe a different way of looking at it is it's rap without the beat. That's another way of looking at it. It's rap without the beat. It's poetry on the stage. It's a speech with fancy words. There's all sorts of different ways you can look at it, but that's really all it is. Okay. And I mean, there's all sorts of different avenues you can explore with that, like slam, or there's beat poetry that exists. Doing poetry on beat, not rap, but poetry on beat, which is a whole another game. Yeah, that goes all the way back to the 1960s. with a group called The Last Poets. They did a lot of that, and Gil Scott-Heron did as well, which that's a more familiar name. People know the revolution will not be televised. Yeah. People know that pretty well. I mean, then there's even there's beat poetry. There's that. I guess some of the improv stuff that I was telling you about that my guys did a little bit. Okay. So there's different avenues, but spoken word is really just putting it on stage.
Okay. Let's get into your body of work. Artists, they will count their work by saying, I have this many albums, this many singles, this many APs. How do you, as a spoken word artist, how do you count your body of work?
I think that's a great question because it's with spoken word poets, I think a lot of them struggle with body of work because some of us, these are poems that we put kind of like battle raps in a way where it's like battle rap, you have to put so much time into that one battle rap. Yeah, so it's like you only really have so many battle raps because, you put so much time into them. I think spoken word poets are kind of in the same way because we put so much time into rehearsing every single word and on top of the writing, and I think that's something we need to do better with. But I mean, I still try to get into the mindset of doing books, not books, but chapbooks is what we call them, which it's basically just a small book. Okay. Chapbooks can be like 20 to 30 pages long. They're super short and they're super cheap.
And they're just full of rhymes.
Yeah, they're full of our own poems, yeah. Okay. And it's not too many, it's enough to fill that amount of pages and stuff like that.
Do you call it a chapbook?
A chapbook, yeah, that's what they're called.
So, if I'm a spoken word artist and I want to build a body of work and I go get a chapbook, I write my poetry, and I finish this one book, is that now one piece of work?
I don't know if I can consider that one piece of work because I almost have to kind of relate it to what another great poet who I know, Rashad Wright, he was on the New Jersey Slam team just recently. He said, I think he was with NPR when he said this. Yeah, he got some big credits here and there. He was like poet laureate of Jersey City. He said that spoken word is a lot like you have your own. Each poem is like a mini play. That's kind of what it's like. So it's almost like your body of work. It's like stringing together a bunch of mini plays. That's one way to look at it. Because I don't want to be performing the same 2-3 poems all the time. I want to have enough to where I can shuffle it around and have new experiences with the same people, right. That sort of thing. But body work, I think, is something that poets in general need to work on. Well, spoken word poets specifically, they need to work on because I think we get too focused on focused on the mini play, and we're not focused on thinking ahead, thinking a book, and thinking getting to the publishing territory and all that stuff.
Okay. And when you mention the publishing territory, that's just like another high level way of taking your journey from where you start from the chapbooks to something more serious.
Well, the chapbooks are the things that are getting published. Those are what's coming out.
They get published.
Yeah, the chapbooks get published, yeah.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, so, for example, my buddy Damien Rucci, he dropped his most recent chapbook titled The Last of the Hardcore, which is a hell of a title.
Hell yeah.
He dropped that, Damien Rucci.
Shout out Damien Rucci.
Yeah, Damien Rucci. And he dropped that, and that's actually, that wasn't a chapbook, so that's a bad example, that's a book. Only an actual chapbook I can bring up. I'll think of another one he had that I got from him. He had another one that I got from him called, and even if I did, so what? And that only $5 for the book. You get, and it's like 20 pages, super short, but it's very easy to sell. And he sells a lot of those. He can sell them in bulk, and that's the nice thing about those. But publishing is definitely. It's weird. Publishing is almost like it's like adding like a little star next to your name because the people who get the feature sometimes, one of the influences to them getting that feature is getting published. And I'm not talking self-published. I don't want to insult anybody who does self-publishing. I got nothing against them. But self-publishing, to be fair, I want to say anybody can do it, but it's not.
It's the beginning level. Right?
And there's no one, but behind the, behind a desk going, okay, we want to publish this.
Right. It's a different.
Yeah, you don't have the same barricades and stuff like that you got to get over.
Okay.
Because publishing is almost like, okay, you have proven, someone has looked at this and said, okay, we've published poems before. These are good publishable poems. That's what it's all about. It's like a rite of passage almost. So it's important for that. Like, it creates other opportunities.
Okay. So, tell us, how do a spoken word artist start from doing these chapbooks to actually getting published by a real publisher? Like, as an artist, you'll say, let's compare that to, get signed to a label, right? Mm-hmm. It's about people. It's about networking. It's about your work. Mm-hmm. It has to be good. It's about your work ethic, the body. It's a lot of different little avenues that you definitely have to trailblaze, and let's say the stars must align for you to actually get that deal.
Yeah.
So how does a spoken word artist go from doing the chapbooks, self-publishing, as you say, to actually getting a real publisher to see their work?
Well, if you're talking specifically about a spoken word poet, there is some unique challenges with it. Because first of all, there's the great dilemma of you can write for the stage, but can you write for the page? Because it's like, so how I say something, with my own voice, I could say something really dumb, but I can make it sound awesome.
Right, because you could do it, but could you translate?
But it kind of like that, yeah. It's like, there's one of my poems, I had a poem where I was talking about worldly issues, it's called The World I Want, and I was like, I want the news to stop being, so sensationalized, and I was saying all these things and all that, all these different lines about, worldly issues, and it was great on stage, but, if you were to just put that on paper and read it, you would think, man, this poem kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Because...
Well, it would be too, informative?
Well, no, not at all. It's not as... The thing that gives that poem that fire is me performing it in the way that I am. You don't have that delivery when you're on a page. Right. You just have your own internal monologue to whoever's reading. And whoever's reading is going to read in their own way. Right. So that's a whole unique dilemma that spoken word poets got to deal with to start with. So you have to learn. Yeah, not to mention, when you're doing your poems, memorizing all that, you're not worried about line breaks. You're not worried about punctuation. You're not worried about all of that. All this, all these little elements in it. So you got to learn how to do all of that first and foremost. Mm-hmm. And that's a challenge. That's a big challenge. I'm learning to do that right now, and it's not easy. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, you have to understand, as far as, I like that you draw the parallel between, getting published through, a book company or press and all that, and with, getting signed and all that, because there's definitely lots of similarities. Mm-hmm. And the only way to really get published right now as an independent artist is you got to find one of these independent publishing places. Those are the only real ways to do it, because the chances of getting accepted by one of the big ones, the big corporate ones, is not only is it slim, there's lots of shady stuff that comes with it. Right. Because there was a huge lawsuit that happened. I think it was with what is it, Roundtree Publishing or Random House. Random House, that's the name. I think Random House, they went through a lawsuit recently because they were finding that I think their findings were something along the line of the actual profit margins for what those guys were selling under there was laughable. Yeah. There were guys that were barely selling under these big corporate publishing companies.
They wasn't doing their part.
Partly, yeah. That's a big part of it, yeah. And so that with the road to publishing, I think trying to find an independent one is important. And to do that, you have to be involved with the community, because otherwise you're not going to hear about it. The only way I heard about the presses that I'm interested in, people like Two Key Customs or people like Between Shadows Press and stuff like that. The only way that I heard about any of those, or Bone Machine or any of that, is because I'm involved with the community. I know I meet all these other guys who are published, and they're like, oh yeah, we published with them, or we published with them. You have to get involved with the community somehow, the specific artist community that you want to appeal to and all that. And what's nice is it kind of is a double positive, because if you get involved with that community, you have now given yourselves like tons of people who are willing to buy your book, because if I were to drop a book, which I actually am getting very, very close to doing.
Okay, we'll talk about that too.
We'll get into that, but if you want to actually drop a book and all that, and you get involved with the community, you get all these people mixed in with you. You got people who are now like loyal followers. Even they're willing. They're like, hey, I'll easily contribute $5 to support you. Right. And what's nice is if that community is big enough, $5 doesn't seem like much, but it's like $5 from like 50 people. That's decent money. That ain't bad money at all. So those are the things I would tell you as far as publishing goes.
Okay, definitely. So I definitely want to break that down. Because I don't want it to go over a lot of people's heads when it comes to you being a musician or you being a spoken word artist. What Imai is saying is that if you want to take your craft to the next level, it's crucial that you dive yourself into that community, because one, you just can't do it by yourself, right? And then two, when you're in that pool of people who do about the same thing that you do, they give you the information that you need in order to take your craft and what you do to the next level. So that's big. Right?
Yeah. Plus, and I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna relate to both poetry and hip hop too. And this one's gonna hurt. Is that when you think about people as an artist, when you think about the people who are sharing your stuff on their stories and streaming your music and all of that, who are the number one people doing that? It's the other artists in these communities. That's kind of the sad truth of it all. Is that your number one supporters are going to be the other guys going alongside you as artists in these communities. That's how it tends to be. So that's why it's so important that you have to get involved. Go to your open mics and stuff like that as an artist. Go to your events. And network with people, talk with people. Gain respect from the people, and all that stuff. Like that goes a long way.
Definitely. Make sure people recognize your face. That's a big thing. You outside, you get to meet people, and there's most of the times, whatever state you're in, Jersey, fucking Atlanta, wherever state you're in or whatever, you're definitely gonna end up seeing a couple of the same faces because you guys are on the same grind together, and that does nothing but help everybody grow. So that's great. So I want to jump into this, right? As an artist, it's hard to ask an artist like, "What's your favorite word?" Because and I'll tell you why. When you create something, it's like your baby. You can't have a favorite. You love them all, but I'm gonna ask you anyway. Okay. You have one that's like,
there's definitely some favorites. That, and there's some new stuff I like that's definitely that I'm putting together, which I'm so proud of myself for putting together. My classic one that I've always loved is the one where it's called The Fire, and I'm 99% sure you and everybody that knows me has heard it. Yeah. And it's the one about come on, man, that would be a mission failed. I'm deeper than Batman, voiced by Christian Bale. Woo! That's one of my favorites. What I will say though, because I want to say I'm always trying to top myself, because I don't want to try to get into that mindset. It can be a little, anxiety inducing. But I wanted to say, man, I want to outdo the Christian Bale line. It's been 3 years, and I'm still doing that. I need to do something that's better. Right. And I think, and I think with I have this brand new poem that I'm still I want to say I'm editing it still. There's some things I'm tweaking here and there. It's pretty much ready.
Okay. Is it like in a stage where you'll say it's right before the final stage?
Pretty much, yeah. It's kind of in the final stages. It's really just waiting to hear some notes from a buddy of mine on it.
Okay.
But it's a very different poem. I'm not going to give the whole poem because it's super long, and like I said, things got to get tweaked about it. It's like about a 6-minute poem maybe.
Oh wow.
And mind you,
That's fucking crazy.
And the first half of the poem, there's like no rhymes. It's like it's titled it's titled Metamorphosis, and it's about the whole premise of the poem is about the change that you've seen me make from because outside of the performer life, like I'm just some regular, like innocent, chill, laid back guy. But when I get up on stage, this like animal comes out of me, and that's kind of what it's all about. And if you really, really want, I can give you a snippet of the very like last piece of it. It's not
please,
long at all.
Please share, please.
It goes a little something like this.
And the name of this new poem is called
Metamorphosis. When the dark night rises, I become my blues bane. I lose pain, taste vengeance, and watch my bruise wane. Now I'm champion to the night. I grab my demons by the chest and send them to the light. I emerged from darkness holding that which is bright. I found heaven from hell, though hell gave me might. And look, I'll never toss up a medal. I take pride in these bars and how I offer the medal. Woo! That's why people nowadays never bother to rebel. Because look, I raise hell like I father the devil. Damn. And that's a little preview of Metamorphosis.
M-fucking-I, man. What the fuck, bro? That's a preview you just said?
Yeah, that's a little snippet.
Damn. Nah, that's amazing. I can't wait.
I want to get that last line on the shirt because I like that last line a lot. Yeah. Raise hell like I father the devil. I like that.
Nah, that's crazy, bro. That's crazy. So, bro, I just don't want to just fly by that. Like, that just was something we hear every day. It's fucking that, bro. That's something that I feel, when you feel like it's in its final phase, when you put it in the chapbook, that's something I think you could lead to going to a publisher.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's such a unique piece because like the way the poem starts is the poem goes the daily march begins. Every day feels like Monday morning, and the Monday mornings feel like Sunday evenings. You know, like that. The poem starts like that, and like slowly it drifts into what you heard. You know, I connect the dots, and it's such a unique poem. I'm in a stage of as a writer and as an artist now, where I'm sick and tired of boxing myself in only doing one thing. I am going to be the battle poet, undoubtedly. That's what I'm going to be. But at the same time, I want to be versatile as an artist. Meaning's infinite. I'm not meaning singular.
Exactly.
You know, so I want to be able to reach my hand in different spots and do stuff like that, where it's kind of weird, it has twists on it, or stuff that's comedic. You know, because something I do now at some of the newer shows that I do is, so if you have to feature as a poet, if you're a featured artist, if you're like on the fly or whatever, this is like a tradition mainly for poets, is the host, they always they ask you to write a bio about yourself, like a whole biography about yourself. You know, like and some when you're writing about yourself, sometimes you sound insanely like egotistical. Like, am I just one of the best artists in all people? Right. So I wrote a poem making fun of all of that. You know, and the poem starts with me going, "Am I as a local sex icon from Hillsborough, New Jersey?" That's how the poem starts. You know, and I was saying stuff like, towering 6'5", he's a physical powerhouse. But you're saying all this ridiculous, like, I'm trying to, like, reach in a different...
Yeah, pocket. So that's what you mean by you veering off into the comedy and the other different categories. You're not staying in the hardcore category. I like that.
Yeah, I think I mean, the hardcore absolutely is still my wheelhouse.
Yeah, the foundation.
It's the foundation and the wheelhouse. But I don't want to only do that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be versatile as an artist.
Right. Okay. So shit, that's tough. And because the whole Christian Bell, that bar from your poem from back in the day is pivotal, and you said something that you don't want to lean into that one, so you want to top that in a way. And this
I didn't want that single one to define me because I'm still doing that, like, today, which I'm happy to still perform it today. But I don't want to like have 3 years ago be my peak.
Yeah.
I want to always challenge I want to challenge myself when necessary.
Yeah. I could relate to that when it comes to my music, because every time I drop a body of work, I'm always working, so I have a lot of music. So when it's time to release, I'm not really a singles artist. Like, I drop singles, but I'm really more excited about albums and bodies of work because they tell stories. Mm-hmm. And I like stories. Mm-hmm. So, and I have concepts and everything. So every time I do drop a body of work, there are the trappings, you feel me? There are the stunts. And just like how you said, like, that one is like one of your ones. Is like you can say, oh, this is the hit on this project or whatever. I feel the same way. It's like, I want to perform trapping 50
5
years.
million times, 10 years from now.
Yeah, I gotta get another one of those. Every time I make another body of work, I'm trying to find something that tops or is on the same level as trapping. So I understand that 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. Let's jump into this book you're talking about.
Yeah. So it's currently, I've ran through the whole thing and edited a whole bunch of times. I got a buddy of mine who's editing it right now and helping out with that. So it's getting very close to being sent off to a publisher.
Okay. From 0 to 100%, what percentage would you say you're in the process when it comes to that book?
I'd say the book itself is finished. It really just needs to get tightened up editing wise. So I want to say 75% because whatever, most of the changes, there's going to be lots of edits that I have to make for this last edit, undoubtedly, because it goes back to what I was saying about being a stage poet versus page poet, and me making that adjustment of trying to make some of the stage stuff work on the page. So I have to make that adjustment and do whatever edits I got to do for that. But besides that, I don't think that'll take long for me to fix, and after that it's pretty much done. So I'm only 75% of the way there. It's very. I think I can definitely put something out this year. Oh, wow. I'm pretty sure it's going to be able to come out this year, and it has a title and everything. The title is Punch Sunday.
Punch Sunday.
Yes.
Punch Sunday.
That is the title I decided on. And it's not it's partially random. I'll be honest, because sometimes you just be thinking, sometimes you just have titles just come right up in your head, and you're like, man, that sounds kind of cool. Yeah. But the reasoning behind it is I kind of wanted it to be a mixture. Because the chapbook is a combination of poems that match my general energy and, poems that make up a lot of my beliefs. My energy, punch, my beliefs, Sunday, church, religion, that sort of thing. Okay. So those two things connect. That's where the name came from. But yeah, I want to try to get that out this year. I'm dying to get published, and I'm so happy that I've gotten this far in the process.
Wow. That's congratulations, bro. Congratulations before the congratulations.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I just know when you're somebody who has a gift, you identify your gift, you hone it, you get better at it, and you decide to take the next step in that journey to do something more concrete, more everlasting. It's not easy. There's a whole bunch of forces against you. But you end up, striving and still doing it. So my next question to you is, how do you stay focused, bro? How do you stay tunnel vision? How do you not get distracted? everything is in your ear, social media.
Yeah.
How do you stay
Yeah, that's tough too because like I have I'm very open about mental health and stuff like that. I'm fairly open. Like I was diagnosed like a couple years ago with ADHD.
Okay.
So like that's definitely a struggle, and I've met other artists who struggle with the same thing, and it makes it so difficult to create sometimes because you're like, all right, I'm gonna start writing this thing, and then 5 minutes later, going on a walk, and stuff like that. So staying focused is like a huge challenge, and I just have very specific routines and rituals that kind of just help me do what I have to do. I usually set aside like a piece of time in the day, and now what I've learned to do better is right in front of other people. So what I'll do now is I'll go out to like a cafe or I'll go out to a library or something like that, and I'll write there, and I'll get all my stuff done there because there's something about having people around you that puts this soft social pressure on you, so I can't just, screw around.
Right.
There's people here. I have to at least pretend like I'm busy.
Right.
That sort of thing.
And you end up being busy.
And pretend to be busy, sometimes you end up being busy. Right. So that's part of it. And
that's good advice.
Yeah. And the other thing is because it's so easy as a creative to get lost in the process. Because you'll start just picking apart everything, getting over focused on everything. Mm-hmm. It's just to understand that one of my favorite movie quotes ever from a movie called Tron Legacy. Random movie to be quoting from, but it's a great quote. Is perfection is unknowable. And there's so many artists who try to think, oh, this has to be perfect. This has to be perfect. And it's like, well, that's not how that works. You don't get to decide what's perfect. You don't get to make that decision. And the only way you're going to make this piece better is you have to write the garbage version of it first. Usually, is what happens. You have to write the garbage version of it first, and eventually you build it up to being that good piece of work that you like. You have to understand there's a process to it. I've had plenty of times where I'm like, man, I have a good idea, and I write down a poem and it's done. That does happen. Yeah. That happens. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, you have to go through a grueling process. You have to go through, different iterations of stuff. You have to go back and be like, okay, I'm going to write this again, but this time, let's see if I can change something. I'm going to go back again, but this time let's change that thing. And I'm going to say it out loud and do all this. Understand the process and having, your own routines for things is vital.
Definitely. So, Emma has a new book coming out called
Punch Sunday.
Punch Sunday.
Hopefully sometime this year.
And you said that there will be different poems in this one book?
All sorts of poems. A lot of poems that you have heard before.
Can you give them a number?
The number in there, I know, let's see, it's probably close to 7, 8, maybe 9 poems. So it's not too many poems. It's again, chapbooks are very short. This is probably only 20-ish pages or something like that. But it has a lot of the work that I've, a lot of my friends have been seeing. It's that sort of work. Some of my older work. I have what are some pieces in there that I know are going to be in there. That one that I was just sharing with you, Metamorphosis. That's the opener. That's how I open the dang thing. I got a poem called Gateway Drug in there. I got a poem, a suicide piece called The Darkest Side in there. I have this rehab letter to a friend in there. I got all sorts of just wide-varying stuff. I have a newer one, which is a very different type of. I don't want to say it's different. It's definitely more on the hardcore side, the intense side. It's called, but I wanted to get creative with it. It was poem called Self-Affirmations. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those kind of braggadocious poems that I have, but it's in the style of self-affirmations. So all sorts of different stuff, and I try to make it diverse. But that's coming soon.
2024 anyway. Mm-hmm. 2024. You talked a little bit about mental health. I want to jump into that space a little bit because I'm big in that too. I was diagnosed with bipolar depression, maybe before 2020, mm-hmm. I believe. And it was weird because I felt from the outside looking in, or from just me experiencing my own experiences, I just felt like it's something that was normal that everybody had until I realized it wasn't the case. And using that with my artistry, I created bodies of work called The Therapist, Session 1, Session 2, and I just dropped Session 3.
Nice.
Right? So I like to definitely spread mental health awareness, and I also have a clothing company called Akuvie, Akuvie. It's actually my mom's name, but it's an acronym that stands for Always Know Your Vibe is Everything.
Oh, that's nice.
Appreciate it.
That's nice.
You feel me? And it's also mental health awareness brand. How important and crucial is it to speak on that?
It's super important. It's so important. Especially because I just gotta mention, because we're not only are we speaking on it, we're men speaking on it. Right. And as men, like growing up, like there's so much of just pat that stuff down, man. Like, why are you saying all this? Why are you saying all that? Why are you being weird? It's it's so much. We're taught to just shove it all in. We're taught to be a certain way and all this stuff. And the reality is, like, there are real issues that men deal with, that have to be addressed, in the mental health department. And if we don't speak on that, like you're going to see all these just nasty things start to come up in your life, and it's better deal with it when you're young, especially, than have to deal with it, when it explodes after you bottled it up for so many years. Yeah, because I see that so much. I see so many guys who are just like, they got so much rage inside them, and they have not figured out how to cope with that. And people haven't been given coping mechanisms and stuff like that, and they're taught, oh, that's dumb, that's weak, that just means you're soft and all that. And it's like, nah, man. It's like, no, soft is, people getting killed over people losing their temper. Right. Soft is, you ignoring your friend when they say, hey, I really need help. I have thoughts about ending my life and stuff like that. That stuff is soft. Right. It's soft when you ignore it and push it away and all that stuff. The hard thing to do is to face your stuff. It's to face your issues head on. Right. That's the hard thing to do. That's the difficult thing to do. Yeah. No, because nobody wants to do that.
Exactly. I also want to mention and add on to what you're saying, that it's also about acknowledging what's going on in your mind, in your life, understanding triggers. There's a book by this psychologist called How to Do the Work, by, I think her name is Nicole. I had the book. I have to mention her. Give me a second. I'm gonna find her name because I just had to shout her out.
While you're looking for it, what I can say is, one of the important things that people, I think, kind of, I would say they don't know about, that is a helpful thing to know about, is there's something out there called adverse childhood experiences. And this is like this whole system of basically looking at events in your life that might be considered trauma or traumatic or whatnot, and it's seeing how that stuff affects you in your later life. Because trauma isn't just something that you have and it doesn't go away or anything like that. It manifests itself in your life in different ways. Like, for example, if you're someone who grew up in a house where your family did lots of drugs, that puts you at risk later in your life for doing the same behavior. So that sort of stuff, that those are important things to talk about, because nobody, when it comes to trauma, and all those things, everybody wants to push away, don't talk about it, because that's not what you're supposed to do. But, you gotta face your issues at one point or another.
No, that's a fact.
I'll talk about a book that I read a ways back. It was a really, really good book, a popular one, like in the field of psychology. It's a book called Man's Search for Meaning. and it's a book written by a guy named Viktor Frankl. And the book was written while Viktor Frankl was he was locked up he was Jewish, and he was locked up in one of those Nazi internment camps.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote that whole book is about how you find meaning in your life and all that stuff. And he had to find meaning in like one of the worst, most unprecedented times ever. During the Holocaust. While people were being slaughtered all around him. And genocide is happening. He had to find meaning and stuff like that. And a lot of that book had to deal with, personal responsibility, giving you purpose and stuff like that. But that's a good read, answer for me.
Right. Adding to another good read, it's a book called How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole Lepore. I just have to give her flowers. It was a real pivotal book for me because I wanted to go to therapy so bad, bro. I wanted to go to therapy so bad. I did my research, obviously, but it was a financial thing, and I think it was also a me thing. You know how you say you always want to do something, but you never end up doing it?
Yeah.
But the real answer is you're in your own way. I feel like it was half financially, and it was another half me being in my own way. So I was like, next best thing that I could do is get a book about this topic. So I found this book, How to Do the Work, and she really breaks down mental health in a real to the molecule. I mean, and it's really about your childhood trauma and how it all leads to where you are now and how to identify your trauma. And I remember, like, during the end of the book, she's like, I'm paraphrasing my ass off, but she says, the whole point of this is so you don't fucking go crazy every time you trigger. And I was like, damn, shit, that is the whole point of this.
And noticing those things, it's like, it's so hard because it's so ingrained in your routines and stuff like that. So it's hard to pinpoint, oh, wait, this is setting me off and making me do things? Hold up, it's one of those sorts of things. It's crazy.
Yeah. So definitely mental health is a important topic that men must talk about. I definitely want to make it something that people, feel comfortable talking about because it is a real issue. The percentage of suicide rates when it comes to men are extremely high, and that is because of the society norm. Men have to be the tough people, have to hold their feelings, can't communicate, especially to their women. Like that's a big topic.
And how like we have trained ourselves to view women as like a whole nother thing. Because it's like I think so. I finally saw the Barbie movie, and like I think the very end of that movie, I think they like nailed something when it comes to like men and how we view women. Because like not like spoilers, sort of. It's been out for a little bit, so like
you haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it, yeah. But I think one of the things that they nailed in that movie was, at the very end, Ken, he was just kind of lost because he had based his whole identity around, I have to get this woman or else my life is worthless. I have to have,
my whole identity.
because it's almost like we view women as like a status symbol, almost as like a means to an end, rather than a human being. And like that's so much like a part of like the problem for us is that, we got all these like weird value systems, and it's like we're setting ourselves up for failure because it's like rejection is a regular part of life. People get rejected all the time, and you're going to get rejected way more than you're going to get accepted. That's just how life goes.
So
that's the truth. Yeah. So to sort of base our whole identities on that and to like put so much pressure on it, if I don't get the girls, then I'm a loser. That whole mentality. If you focus on that mentality, you're just gonna set yourself up for so much just negative feelings, so much just bad thoughts. Like we need to like shift away as men from that and shift more towards just viewing people as people.
Right. View people as people and understanding that there are other people that are like you. And you definitely must put in the work. That's why the book is called How to Do the Work. Put in the work to not only heal yourself, but define your community in order to heal yourself overall. So.
Yeah, and therapy is not the end all be all. That's one of many tools. Yeah. There's plenty of things. There's Cassie, he found a book that was able to speak to him. It was written by a professional. There's like support groups out there that are they're free and easily accessible. There's plenty of information from the APA that's easily accessible. There's like all sorts of stuff that's good for you. That, of course, helplines and lifelines and all that stuff. If it ever comes to extreme situations.
Yeah, well, definitely. I could talk to you forever, bro.
Yeah,
I could talk to you forever. Let's dive into, and we can make this one of the last topics. Let's dive into AI, because as artists, now we have this thing called AI, and they're able to generate new content and material from real life people. How do you feel like that's gonna affect not only the music world but the spoken word world as well?
Yeah, Allen Iverson's making a killing in this Second Life. But as far as AI goes, I mean, it is a little bit scary because it's like I've seen some of these like recreations they've done with the paintings and all that, and it's like, it is a little scary. And I think the number one threat that comes from all that is what they're fighting about right now in a lot of these like courts and stuff like that, which is the copyright and all that, and intellectual, like stealing intellectual property, stealing ideas and all that stuff, and the worries of stealing one's likeness, because imagine somebody using one of our faces and like a video production we didn't give them permission for, that's like we might not think about it, but like that's wrong. I wouldn't want that. So it's just like rules and regulations for it. I mean, and from my own perspective as a poet, like I've seen some of the AI poems. They're not bad, but they're also not fantastic. I think the way human creativity just functions, I don't think that AI is going to be able to outdo that. Like, I think as much as AI is going to be able to learn, like, AI is always constricted to a box. And that box can always expand, but they can't, by default, think outside of that box. Right. So I think in the long run, I think we're going to be okay. But the important thing is we just regulate it, so that, people aren't, their likeness isn't being used without their permission. Mm-hmm. So the copyright issues aren't going even crazier than they already are without the AI. Right. So I think regulation is important. But besides that, I think in the long run, I think artists are going to be fine. Because I'll tell you this. I saw one of the big ones that went a little bit viral was I think it was a Jay-Z song, an AI-generated Jay-Z song. And I heard the song, and I'm like, okay, it sounds like Jay-Z rapping, and that's the beat that Jay-Z would probably rap over. Mm-hmm. But like it's not Jay-Z. Because Jay-Z has like this, he has like such an incredible wit to him. He's got that billionaire wit that he's just able to apply to his music that the AI just wasn't able to comprehend. Because AI is, Jay-Z, he's saying stuff like, we used to fight for building blocks, now we fight on blocks of buildings and make a killing. AI is not dropping lines like that. I'm not seeing it yet. Maybe they might figure out a formula, but like I said, it's that. They're constricted to the expanded box. We can think outside of the box.
Right. I was watching an interview with Lil Wayne, and they asked him about AI, and he said the same thing. Like, the individual who the AI is trying to copy and mimic, they can never get that person 100% because, like, you're you. Mm-hmm. You are you. And I want to, like, say, how does that, work when it comes to, spoken word artist, because you're a spoken word artist, you write your own material. Mm-hmm. Now, because of this new AI, people might decide, hey, I could go into ChatGPT, tell them what to do, and give me a 5-minute spoken word thing and go and perform it, right? And claim that it's theirs.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'll say about that. I'd actually say, if anything, spoken word poets are one of the few that are kind of safeguarded in this situation. us, and I would also say like play actors and drama actors, because part of the experience of spoken word is like the live aspect of it, because that's like so much of it is hinged on that.
It's still on the
delivery.
delivery.
So much of it is hinged on that live stuff, and AI is not going to be able to do that unless we give them robot bodies and stuff like that, which maybe is a possibility, 10, 20 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
But, in the current, time, spoken word poets are fairly, when it comes to the spoken word performances, we're fairly safeguarded, I would say, because of that, because I just don't see them, part of the appeal is that, at least my appeal as spoken word artist is I can walk right up to you and, touch you on the shoulder or the hand whilst I'm saying something. Mm-hmm. A machine can't really do that the same way that a human being can. And that's one of the nice little things. Not that I'm trying to get it from people's grills and all that. Yeah. Be like, hey, buddy, how you doing? I ain't trying to be like that, but
it's still the human essence of it.
That human essence, yeah.
Okay. Dope. So, anything you wanna leave your fans, your viewers, here before you leave? We talked about the book, Sun Punch or Punch Sun?
Punch Sunday.
Punch Sunday. Okay.
Yes. So I'll leave on this. Lots of changes are coming to just how I handle things. When at the time of us shooting this, it's a transitional phase. I'm transitioning some new things. But come March, it's going to be hopefully a new age. The age of Am I the Battle Poet? An age where Punch Sunday releases. I think it's going to be an exciting time, and I'm excited for, any fans listening, any, newcomers who, they're interested. They're like, yo, what is this white dude with long hair talking about? This is what I'm talking about. Some awesomeness is coming. Prepare yourself, okay? Because hopefully, I'm stepping out, trying something different, but I got a good feeling that something crazy is coming, folks, okay? And it comes in the form of the Battle Poet.
Woo! The storm is coming. Man, it's been such a pleasure. I appreciate you for coming through.
Thanks for having me.
I want to let you know that just like your book coming up, just like how you're revamping your social media and just new things that you want to do and show people, I want you to know that this place you're always welcome. You're always welcome. If you just need to treat this place like your personal television. If you need to come get something out, whether it's a complaint, whether it's something new, whether it's promotion, come here all the time. You are accepted here. We love you here, bro.
That's respect, brother. That's respect. And I hope you all the best with your music. If you're not already following Cassidy and if you're not already following Hustlemania and all the stuff that he does, where have you been? What are you doing? You need to wake up right now, go on social media and follow Cassie B and follow Hustlemania and get involved with all the stuff he's doing because it's awesome. Okay?
Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you for having me. This has been awesome.
One last thing. We believe in manifestation. We believe in positive affirmations. We have some words in this cup. You pick one, you keep it, you take it home with you. You take one, all right, and you say it out loud. What it says.
Let's see. The word or the fortune?
The word.
There's what's the word on here? This has a whole fortune.
Well, yeah. So this is what you mean by the word, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, okay.
Tell me the word.
Okay, so the word is: you cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him discover it within himself. Ooh. Very true.
That's true. 1,000%.
I shall discover myself more.
Yeah.
I shall manifest that.
So basically, you put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
Don't expect results from things that you didn't.
That's right. Put in the work.
Mine says a new adventure awaits you this weekend.
Ooh, okay. Okay. Man. I don't know what that's all about, but okay.
Hey, man. Hey, I don't know what's going to happen.
Let's find out. I don't know.
We're gonna find out the following weekend.
Who the hottest in this state?
Come to Hustle Mania. Find
Find
out.
out.
Yes, sir. It's the Hustle Pod, and we out of here.